give you some order. Good morning. It's now time to call our meeting of the Bullitt County Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome everyone. I'd also like to remind you to silence your cell phones and other devices so we conduct the people's business today. Commissioner Toby Connor, if you will, give us the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I just want to ask everyone to remember the family of Matt Rogers in prayer. He died Sunday afternoon, and just be with his family right now. So.
Let us pray. And Father, Lord, thank you for the day that you've given us. Thank you for a place to come, Lord, that you have blessed us with to carry out your business and carry out this county's business. Lord, help everything we do in this meeting room today be an emblem of you. Every way all the ways we conduct ourselves, have it be worthy in your eyes. And Father, Lord, I ask you to lift up the ones that's hurting, lost loved ones, sick, and all the others, Lord, that you know what our needs are. And Father, we go in tomorrow and many more days to come. Lead us and guide us, have everything we do be an emblem of you. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Miss Mincy White, will you call the roll of the commissioners, please?
Yes, sir. I, Venus Mincy White, President as Clerk of the Board of Bullitt County, hereby call the roll for those on the governing body. All those present shall answer by saying aye. Chairman David Bennett.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Anthony Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Ray Mosley.
Aye.
Commissioner Toby Connor.
Aye.
Commissioner Nick Newkirk. Commissioner Timmy Rushing.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ray Davis. Okay. I've determined that we have all members of the Board of Commissioners present. Therefore, we have a quorum to conduct business for the good of the citizens of Bullitt County. I now yield the floor back to you, Chairman.
Thank you. Before I entertain a motion to approve the general agenda, do we have any discussion or modification desired by the county manager or the board? No, sir. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the general agenda.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. At this time, I'll recognize those citizens who have signed up to address the board. Once your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and make your comments. All speakers who are recognized will be allowed 5 minutes to speak.
Bobby Bradley.
Good morning.
My name is Bobby Bradley, and I'm a civil rights activist. And I need to provide public notice to the Bullitt County Board of Commissioners. This is in accordance with the USCS Rules of Civil Procedures, as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20 of the United States Supreme Court. The Constitution of the United States has the overarching requirements that every state must follow. States cannot enact their own alternative legislation substituted for the guarantees of the Constitution of the United States. That would mean that the state laws are more powerful than the Constitution, and that is unlawful. Clause 1 of Amendment 5 states, "No person shall be held to answer for any capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment by a grand jury." However, the state of Georgia has enacted its own alternative legislation that permits prosecuting attorneys and police officers to charge by way of information, as opposed to indictment. That is unconstitutional. An emolument violation is when you pay a public official to break the law. The Constitution has two areas that enforces this. Article 1, Section 10, no state shall create any law that shall impair the obligation of contracts. Police officers, prosecutors, judges, and all under contract. A contract to perform based on the oath and affirmation that they took and support and defend the Constitution. Contract perimeters are defined within the Constitution of the United States, and when a state enacts an inferior law that directs their agents to disobey the Constitution of the United States, that is a violation of Article 1, Section 10. The 14th Amendment is the other place that you'll find the reinforcement of this issue. And that is where it states that no state shall create or enforce any law that shall abridge privileges or immunities of the United States citizens. The privileges and immunities of the United States citizens are at a minimum those enumerated within the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. Unfortunately, the state of Georgia has enacted a law in its inferior constitution that permits public officials, judges, law enforcement officers, whom you all pay, to violate the Constitution of the United States. As a result, there is an inordinate amount of people currently imprisoned in the state of Georgia illegally and unconstitutionally. And I believe each and every one of you guys took an oath to uphold the Constitution. And in the last 4 years, our family has gone through hell on earth in Bullitt County. I no longer live here. We used to be property owners here out in the Brooklet area. Our son went through a divorce, or he's still going through a divorce 4 years later. I know you'll have to shut me up in a minute, but he was unlawfully arrested, and Judge Lovett Bennett was the judge in both his criminal trial, where he was found not guilty with a jury of 12. For 22 months, he wore an ankle monitor, $300 a month. That was not his fault. Number 4, May the 8th of last year, Judge Bennett threw him in jail because April Stafford wanted $88,954.59 for attorney fees, and he didn't have the money to pay it. So Judge Bennett completely broke the law again by putting him in jail. I know you guys do not pay Judge Bennett. You don't pay any of the judges, but you do provide the courthouse that they are in. We've got to do something. My son has not seen his daughter in over 4 years. No reason. He is not an unfit father at all. There's a game being played in this county. I'm sorry, I haven't seen my grandchild either in 4 years, and there's no reason for that. And so I'm here to ask you guys to uphold the Constitution of the United States and do your jobs in what you're called to do. And I know you can't talk back to me, but I'm a grandmother that hasn't seen her grandchild in 4 years, and so I'm really sorry for why I'm up here today. But I wanted to give you that information. Thank you.
Tanawa Downing.
Good morning, Commission. My name is Tanawa Downing, and I'm a civil rights advocate and litigator out of Washington, D.C. I need to provide a public notice to all of you. This is in accordance with the USCS Rules of Civil Procedure, as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20 of the United States Supreme Court. Gentlemen, there's nothing more destructive to our union than paying people to abridge their obligations codified in the Constitution of the United States of America. I think we can all agree with that. Please allow me to explain. So the Constitution of the United States is the overarching requirements that every state must follow. States cannot enact their own alternative legislation, substitute that for the guarantees of the Constitution, then go out and enforce that as though that's constitutional. I think we can all agree with that. So Clause 1 of Amendment 5 to the United States Constitution says, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of grand jury. However, the state of Georgia here has enacted its own alternative legislation that permits prosecuting attorneys, law enforcement to charge by way of information as opposed to indictment. That is unconstitutional. So there's actually 2 areas of the Constitution that reinforces this. The first is Article 1, Section 10. That's where it says that no state shall create any law that shall impair the obligation of contracts. Police officers, prosecutors, judges, they are all under contract. That's a contract to perform based upon the oath or affirmation that they took to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. So when the state of Georgia creates a law that directs them to disobey the Constitution, that would obviously be a violation of Article 1, Section 10. Now, the second place that reinforces this is the 14th Amendment. That's where it says that no state shall create or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of United States citizens. The privileges and immunities of United States citizens are at a minimum those that are enumerated within the Bill of Rights, first 10 amendments. They cannot be impaired. This was affirmed by the United States Supreme Court 2019 unanimous decision, Timms versus Indiana, and thus the state of Georgia here has created a law and is enforcing it through the agents whom you all pay to violate the Constitution for the United States of America. Now, an emolument violation is when you pay someone to violate the Constitution. You can't do that. Certainly not when you receive federal funding. You cannot pay someone to violate federal law when you receive federal funding. So we're here today to let you guys know that if you continue to pay public officials to abridge their constitutional obligations, that criminal sanctions can come from that. We don't want to head down that path. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to bring attention to an issue so we can work together to fix this. Now, I want you guys to understand the current situation, because I know that some of this may not make complete sense to all of you. When a prosecuting attorney denies the accused the right to be present to benefit from the very proceeding that exists for their protection from hearsay accusations, a crime has been committed, right? This falls under Title 42 U.S.C. subsection 1981, which says that all persons within the jurisdiction of the United States shall have fair and equal benefits of all laws and all proceedings. Prosecuting attorney cannot deny the accused the right to benefit from the very proceeding that exists for their protection from the prosecuting attorney. It doesn't make sense. And yet that's what the state of Georgia does here. So we have some affidavits here that are from actual victims from within this county who have been arrested by way of information and denied the right to be able to participate in the proceeding that exists for their protection from, the very person that's denying them right. We want to give you these affidavits. We want to work together to fix this problem. But I also want you to understand that on the larger scale, I have over 38,000 criminal affidavits on behalf of victims that have been charged by way of information as opposed to indictment from right here within the state of Georgia. These affidavits are actual verifiable complaints from victims that have had an unconstitutional act committed against them by the state. Now, these affidavits, they identify two crimes in particular. The first is Title 18 U.S.C. subsection 242, which is deprivation of rights under color of law. What that statute says is that any person who, under the color of any state statute, ordinance, custom, or regulation, deprives any person of any right secured by the Constitution commits that crime. Now, the second crime is Title 18 U.S.C. subsection 241, which is conspiracy to deprive rights. What that says is that when two or more persons conspire with the purpose of depriving any person of any right secured by the Constitution, commits that crime. Now, the laws of criminal conspiracy with regard to public officials, that would be all of you, what that states is that any person who, having knowledge of any of the wrongs conspired to be done, and who have the power to prevent or aid in the prevention of the commission of the same, neglects or refuses to do so, may be held as defendants in the action. So upon having been provided with this information, I would ask you to please take a look at Clause 1 of Amendment 5 to the United States Constitution. Confirm what I'm saying to be true, and direct your agents to act in lawful, constitutional manner that is consistent with their obligations codified in the Constitution. Failure to do so does not mitigate your culpability within this particular issue once made aware of this particular situation. I do have this notice. We need to put on the record. Everything is here, my contact information. It's very clear. I pray that you guys read this, review this. Failure to do so will not mitigate your culpability once being provided notice of this particular condition. You guys have an obligation to act, report, and these crimes, we got to get them addressed. So a couple things. First off, I know that as soon as we're done, you're going to go to the attorney. You're going to ask that attorney whether or not what I'm saying is true. That attorney is going to point you to a case from 1884 called Hurtado versus California. And before you choose to rely upon that as your foundation, I must remind you that the Constitution of the United States of America is the foundation, not a judge-made ruling. The Supreme Court of the United States has no constituted authority to be able to alter, amend, or destroy any of the provisions or guarantees of the Constitution, because that must be done by an authentic and explicit act of the people in accordance with the special amending procedure of Article 5. Thank you guys so much. God bless. Who should I give this to, Chair?
Take it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jessica Saxton.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Saxton. I'm also a civil rights advocate from Washington, D.C., and I'm also here to provide you notice regarding the children. It's very similarly to how the criminal courts are being ran, our juvenile and our family courts are being ran the same way, where parents have their children removed, not because of abuse, not because of a state's compelling interest to remove these children, because of neglect, but strictly for state profit. And that's state profit under Title 4D and Title 4E specifically. When children are removed and they're placed into the state custody, the state and then thus the county receives funding from the federal government in order to do so. Same thing with child support. The state actually receives a 66% kickback on any child support order that is enforced into the state. Now, that's despicable, if you ask me, because now you have a court that is incentivized to remove children from one parent or the other and then enact an unlawful tax by way of child support onto the other parent. Under Title IV, You guys all have the budget, so I want you to go and look through that. 18 USC 242, that is called deprivation of rights under the color of law. Many people apply this to the criminal aspect of the unlawful arrest, as Mr. Downing just did. But it also applies to the families. Children have rights. Who's out here fighting for a child's rights? They don't just have rights when they become 18, they have rights as a child. So when you have a parent and a child who has their rights that are deprived of them by way of family court, juvenile court, some of your juvenile magistrates, that is deprivation of rights under color of law. Title 18, subsection 241 is conspiracy to deprive of rights. So when you have two or more agents that are conspiring, such as your social services or your child protective services, or like I like to call it, child profit system, because they are in fact profiting off of the destruction of our families. In both of these instances, Title 18, subsection 241 and 242, if you read through that, it talks about kidnapping. In the event that kidnapping occurs, there are three punishments. One is fines, one is prison, and one is death. Well, we could conclude that many of these children are being kidnapped and trafficked through our systems by way of foster care. You had a senator back in 2010, her name was Lindsay Schaefer. She brought this to the attention of the Georgia constituents. And in that, she was talking about in 2010, how this was a $50 billion industry to remove children away from their loving, fit, healthy parents and put them into the state's custody. So in 2010, we have $50 billion. I can't imagine what that number is. Our children literally have price tags on their heads, and this cannot continue. Lindsay Schaefer was murdered for exposing this, along with her husband, in their bedroom in this state. And we are bringing this back. We are bringing this back in full force nationwide to expose the things that are happening in our family and our juvenile court, as well as the unlawful arrest. Many parents who go to jail never had any type of a criminal record until they step foot into family court. Now, all of a sudden, they have a criminal record. They can't get a job. They're being deprived of not only their rights, not only their children, but now they can't provide for themselves. Now they can't provide for the child support. Where else in America do you ever go to jail because you can't pay? Except for in family court, or worse, in juvenile court, where a parent is forced to pay child support to a foster care family who's not taking care of their children the way that that loving, fit, healthy parent could. Our children have unfortunately become commodities in this system. So I am serving you today with affidavits of criminal conspiracy. This is prima facie evidence according to 28 USC 1746. This is where this individual has declared that everything that they say in these affidavits are true and accurate. You do have a duty to report these crimes to the appropriate civil or military authority under 18 USC 4. That is called misprision of felony. Misprision of felony starts out with whoever, comma. So just because you're sitting at the commissioner level does not make it so that you don't have to report these crimes. Some people here may actually be reporting crimes against their buddies, but nonetheless, it is a crime that you must report. The appropriate agency to report these crimes to would be the FBI. We need some federal oversight in the trafficking of our children through Georgia's systems. You guys have children that are being removed right from the hospitals, and you don't even know it. And people are turning a blind eye to this, and they have for years and years and years, decades, they've turned a blind eye to this. Lindsay Schaefer, a lot of people shut that down because she was murdered, but not anymore. We have thousands and thousands of families that are coming forward. I expect that you guys will be hearing from a lot more of them. So you are served with these affidavits. Please take a look at it. Thank you so much.
Destiny Richards.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I do apologize. Me and Ernest, which is the next name on the list, we thought we were just signing up, saying that we attended. This is our first Board of Commission meeting.
Well, welcome.
We're here on terms of Georgia Southern for a Miss Botkin. So this is our first experience. I do apologize for signing up.
Okay, so Mr. Ernest doesn't need to speak out.
No, thank you.
That's it, Chair.
Okay.
For the public comments.
So moving into our consent agenda, I'm going to read the items that are listed on the consent agenda, and then we'll discuss them at the end here. Number one, approve the minutes from Tuesday, January 6, 2026. Number two, approve the Victims of Crime Act grant for the District Attorney's Office for the federal fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $104,453. Number three, approve suspension repairs to the 2009 ladder truck at Big Mo Spring in alignment for $20,586.54. Number four, approve a bid from BSN Sports LLC for baseball and softball uniforms for spring 2026 season in the amount of $69,165. Number five, approve an amendment to the budgets for fiscal year 2026 by approving amounts in some funds for various activities. Number six, approve the Sourcewell purchase of Lion PPE from NAFCO in the amount of $21,665 for the Bullitt County Fire Department. Number seven, approve the Sourcewell purchase of Lion PPE from NAFCO in the amount of $48,398 for the Bullitt County Fire Department. And number eight, approve the EPD FY26 Tire Products Grant in the amount of $250,000. We can approve these items collectively, or we can move any item to new business for further discussion.
I'd like to move number 8, please.
Number eight is going to new business. Any other items? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda with the exception of number 8
okay.
as read.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to new business, we'll go ahead and do item number 8, approve the EPD FY26 Tire Products Grant in the amount of $250,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Nelson, County Engineer. So this EPD tire grant, we pursued this as a competitive grant through EPD. It's an opportunity to take recycled tires, tires that have been discarded on county right-of-ways and in around our county. But we went through a process back in September to apply for this $250,000. It is going to improve what we've identified through Public Works assistance, 5 Chop Road off of Cleto Road for about 58 hundredths of a mile is what $250,000 will get us. So we're essentially going to contract with a group out of Peachtree City to bring in these tire cylinders. And what they do is they take recycled tires, create a cylinder by removing the tire walls. So it creates just the cylinders left. The tread is what's remaining. These are stitched together in what looks like a honeycomb pattern, 20 feet wide for 58 hundredths of a mile. And that's essentially what it'll look like. And then it'll be backfilled with graded aggregate base. So essentially a crush and run type material. We will utilize the workforce at Public Works to do this work. I've already coordinated with Mr. Mitch Johnson on this. And this was something that we spoke with previous Director of Public Works, Dink Butler, about it. So all this was discussed heavily. We went into it last September as a competitive grant, and we were fortunate enough to receive it. So we appreciate if y'all would vote upon it favorably, and we will proceed accordingly. Stand for any questions? I appreciate it. I just wasn't sure how the tire process was. I didn't know if it had ground up into the dirt or what the process was, so I appreciate the explanation.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 1. It's going to be County Engineer Ron Nelson. Motion to approve an application for the FY26 GDOT LMIG program in the amount of $2,084,694.12 to be used for asphalt patching and resurfacing on county-maintained paved roads, along with the required 30% local match of $625,408.24 to be funded by T-Splost.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So the Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant, or LMIG program, is administered on an annual basis by the Georgia Department of Transportation. The formula amount for Bullitt County this year for FY26 will be $2,084,694.12. And there is a required 30% local option match that we put in through our T-Splost fund, $625,408.24. Our engineering department has identified 12.7 miles of asphalt patching and resurfacing along Williams Road, Josh Dale Road, Golf Club Road, Hightower Road, Timberline Road, West Drive, Allen Drive, and Timberline or Timber Cove. It has an estimated cost of $3.6 million, which will meet our required match plus the $2.084 million from the state. And we will use the T-Splosh funds to make up the difference, which is 30%. We request that you would receive this favorably, and then we will actually move through the application process, which is an online portal with GDOT, and we'll handle that this week and get that moved along. Any questions?
Hear no questions or comments on this item, I'm going to call for a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Did you get your second? Okay. Item number 2. Mr. Ron Nelson again, motion to approve task order FY 26 ROWE09 in the amount of $20,250 to provide right-of-way acquisition services affecting 4 parcels at the bridge replacement project on Cypress Lake Road. Right-of-way acquisition at this project will support FY 25 CPE 15 Cypress Lake Road Bridge Design Replacement Project, which is being designed and engineered by Heath and Lineback. The cost for this work will be funded by FY 25 GDOT Local Road Assistance Funding.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So this one is, we've moved into getting our design of Cypress Lake Road, which has been closed now since last February for approaching the 1-year mark. But the design has proceeded to the point where we can actually go into right-of-way acquisition. We requested a fee proposal from JMT, our right-of-way acquisition consultant, in the amount of $20,250, what we received. And I've asked them to prioritize this, so upon your approval, they will move immediately into right-of-way acquisition so we can keep this project on schedule. I'll remind everybody this project is moving towards being open to traffic in August of 2027. So it's paramount we get this approved so we can get the right-of-way acquisition satisfied quickly and keep this project on schedule. Any questions?
This wasn't coming out of T-Splosh, this was coming out, we got some state funds for this project, right?
That's right, yes, sir. We received FY 25 local road assistance funding, and we received $2,247,332.40 a year ago, so we allocated that towards this project in its entirety. So the design, the construction, and now the right-of-way acquisition will be funded through that.
Okay, appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Just want to bring everybody's attention to the next item in the budget. It's departmental reports. Each one of the departments within the county have submitted a report that's actually part of the budget packet that's online. I'd encourage you to take a look at those, and I appreciate the department heads taking the time to put that information out there for not just the public, for us as well. It helps to clarify a lot of things for us and makes it a whole lot easier instead of having to chase y'all down individually to find answers about what's going on. So at this time, are there any staff comments?
Real quick, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, so I want to introduce our new Assistant County Engineer, Mr. Andrew Grimes, and I'll read a brief bio, and then you can obviously ask him any questions you may have. Mr. Andrew Grimes started with the Bullitt County Board of Commissioners on the 22nd of December 2025. Andy is a graduate of Georgia Southern University's Allen E. Paulson College of Engineering, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering. After graduation, Andy began his civil engineering career as a project manager with the Georgia Department of Transportation. Here at the local office in Statesboro, working on roadway and bridge projects across the Jessup District in southeast Georgia. In December 2020, Andy applied and accepted a position with the city of Statesboro as a capital projects manager, where he assisted the engineering department with oversight of the design, construction, and delivery of the city's T-Splosh program. After 4 years with the city, Andy joined the engineering firm of T.R. Long Engineering as a project engineer, gaining valuable private sector experience. On December 22nd, 2025, Andy joined the Bullock County Engineering Department as Assistant County Engineer. Additionally, Andy holds his EIT certification and is pursuing professional licensure in the state of Georgia. Outside of work, Andy enjoys playing tennis and chess, attending Crossroads Community Church with his family. Andy's a valuable addition to the Bullock County team. Please join me in welcoming Andy Grimes as the new Assistant County Engineer.
Welcome.
Thank you. I thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to being able to serve the community I've been a part of for about the last 10 years since I came here for college. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I know Mr. Nelson is glad to see that you're here, and we're excited to have you. I know you've been busy already, and I hope that we can keep you busy for years to come.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Any other staff comments? Mr. Eldridge, you have any comments you'd like to make right now?
I think I get to make a lot in just a little bit.
You want to introduce your assistant you brought in?
Yes, my new intern. My youngest daughter, Brett, is sitting up there up front. Yes. So she was good enough. Her oldest sister is probably still asleep. So she leapfrogged her in rankings this morning. Good job.
Well, welcome. I hope that you are enjoying this so far. Do we have any commissioner comments at this time? Okay, I just want to say again, if y'all would, just keep the family of Matt Rogers in your prayers. He's well known to the EMS community here, and he contracted COVID back in 2020. Had a double lung transplant and a coronary artery bypass graft at the same time down at Mayo then, and just couldn't carry on any longer. His life has been a miracle since then, and we were blessed to have him for an additional 5 years, and just ask that you keep his family in prayers. So that being said, we're going to move into our work session, and this meeting's about to go in the toilet, literally. So I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Eldridge and let him talk about septage and the way forward.
The septage one. All right, I'll fill time.
Okay, Brett, this is your chance to come up and tell some jokes.
Right. She can tell some jokes. So, well, Dal works on it because we have 2 PowerPoints, but that was the planning side. But I think, as y'all know, y'all commissioned this study, I think back in May. Hofstadler worked on it, did a very detailed study. As you'll see, it's about 150 pages. And I would say they took a comprehensive look at it. You always start with doing nothing. It gives several options along the way. So first they start with doing nothing, which I would imagine the reason why you commissioned the study was that wasn't acceptable. We have 55,000 residential septic tanks in this county and about 3,500 commercial. So I do believe we can claim to be the septic tank capital of Georgia. We do have, and it's so cute, I had it in there, I coined a new term. We probably do have a good bit of ditch treatment going on of our septic waste. We're actually working a case or two right now where we found some dumping around the county. So it's an environmental issue. One of the best lines we had in one of the committee meetings was they make liars out of us, and this is the septic tank haulers, because our neighboring counties don't want our septic waste. So haulers will have to just go through and pick an address in that county so they can dump the septage legally. So it's not the best of situations that we have now. There we go. We got it. All right, so again, here we are. So then it gets, do nothing, receiving facility, and there's two things. So I've had to learn a little bit about septic waste because in my career, primarily what I've dealt with is wastewater treatment systems, wastewater plants. I didn't know a true septic facility exists. So what they are proposing, or did propose, would be a phased approach. So we would have a facility that all the septic tank trucks would come, they'd dump at it. We would need a connection to a wastewater treatment facility. The proposal would be to look at the new plant that's at the Hyundai site. To do so is not cheap. You're looking at $9 million for a facility, $8 million for capacity and access, and that would be followed by an additional $8 million for treatment. So to not get too graphic, but you can imagine septic waste is very different from what you receive just regular residential waste. You're flushing, it's diluted. This has been sitting in the ground in a concrete box, 1,000 gallons of it. It's nasty. So my logic in talking with engineers is we would want to treat this, definitely eventually going through the process, because if you don't, the receiving facility will account for it differently. So if you make the large investment, the $8 million gets you 250,000 gallons a day. I can guarantee you they will treat it differently. It will not be gallon for gallon because it impacts their wastewater treatment facility far worse. So it could be a factor of 10, a factor of 20, I don't know. I think at the beginning, and you'll see that in the report, they'll be okay for a little bit because what they're getting out of Hyundai is very clean, clear, so they can handle it. But I guarantee that will change. And you don't want to waste that kind of investment and have it all eaten up by 10, 20, 30 septic tank trucks a day. So that's what we're talking about, trying to protect the capacity. As far as that capacity purchase, we've worked through it with the EPA to allow us to use the $4 million grant that the county received, I guess it was last year or earlier this year, to purchase that capacity. But that's $4 million I would think we don't want to give back. It was earmarked towards septic, addressing the wastewater issues for Bullock County, and this would be a good window. As far as selling the idea to EPA, it took a few meetings, but I tried to kind of play the bureaucratic advantage to them. We get to spend it all at once. They don't have to do following with us construction, Davis-Bacon Act, all those things that you have to do with grants and stuff. So it cleaned it up for them. And why is it important for us to be talking about this now? The window starts as soon as they crank up that plant. It was negotiated into that agreement a year or two ago that Bullock County has that opportunity, but it's only a 6-month window, and then it closes. So you do have a decision timeline ahead of you. And then and there may be room for negotiations on that cost and how we pay for it. How do we go ahead? Next one. All right, and this comes back to funding. I mean, for me, the biggest decision is for this commission to make this decision and tell us to go. We've kind of been holding back a little bit because I need to know that y'all really want us to pursue this. The EPA was one thing we wanted to get the answer out of them fairly quickly, that we could use their $4 million in the way, because that gives you a big bite of the apple when it comes to getting the capacity. I do believe there's future opportunities for state and federal grants. There would be revenue. You would charge for what comes in the gate. So you'd have disposal fees. The other one, the other possible source is the pilot payments from Hyundai, which would kind of make sense, because then you got to tie to the reason why you have that opportunity, you have that money coming in. I would recommend those pilot payments go towards capital, whatever it is, because y'all have all seen the charts. It kind of goes up, comes back down, goes away eventually. That would be a good source for this. The other one would be a little bit novel. It makes Jeff twitch a little bit, but a countywide special service district, with the logic being everyone that has a septic tank helps pay. They're contributing to the issue for them to help with the cost. I just played around with numbers. $40 a year per septic tank would get you about $2.4 million in revenue annually, and would cover operations and debt service. I'm not saying that'll be the headline, or I'm not saying that's what it would be, but I just wanted to give you an order of magnitude what we're talking about. That is one of the the positive parts about having so many septic tanks. It doesn't take a very high fee to generate a lot of annual revenue to cover your operations costs and your debt service. And that $2.4 million, that was not taking into account any future grants, anything else. That was to cover full debt service, full operations. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, even if we went that route. But if you brought the pilot payments in, there are other ways. I do believe we could take a bite out of it and make it happen. And it is a problem. It is an issue. I know I sat in and listened to septic tank haulers. Been lucky it's been dry. Otherwise, we'd probably be hearing more about it right now. But we do know it is going in ditches. And next is going to planning. I wouldn't want or recommend us to provide wastewater, and obviously this is southeast part of Bullitt County, without the planning to go along with it. This would be thinking long range, but what I would suggest, talked with James, introduced him to transect zoning. I learned it in Dorville, but it's an interesting tool. I think it fits this issue and just what I've heard since being here in Bullitt County. But we would look at using the utilities, being wastewater, water, and the planning side, to channel the growth along that 16 corridor. It's the logical growth pattern. We know between everything that's going on back towards Savannah, that's what makes sense. If you have wastewater to those areas, it can develop far more densely, so you don't chew up as much land. If you can put 5 houses to the same footprint that you can with septic tanks, you really reduce that. It also allows for more commercial development at those intersections, multifamily at those intersections, and you're putting it in a place where you're not building roads all over the place and dealing with the other issues that come with sprawl, I guess is the generic term for it. So I think, the biggest issue, and I'll flip to it, will be maybe shock, thinking this is going to happen tomorrow. I mean, this is really looking 10, 20 years out and looking at how long it would take to actually build and make this happen. But I think it would take some pressure off the commission approving rezonings kind of haphazard and spotted around the county. So can we flip to transect zoning? And the other issue that I know has been a big one, you do have water now on the southern side. I've got a fire chief that would desperately love to have some fire flows. That's an issue I think we have to face at some point too. But you will have the opportunity for water. Those ISO ratings everybody hears about and everybody wants to talk about ISO, 40% of that is water. So you can buy all the trucks you want, you can hire all the firefighters you want. 40% of that calculation still comes back to fire flows. And the bulk, as I understand it, the bulk of our private water systems don't provide the fire flows. And they have no storage to speak of. So when we just went through ISO, I think they actually ran the few, wherever chief is, and they didn't meet. You know, we couldn't get the flows. So, you know, as far as homeowners concerned about their fire insurance, the homeowners insurance, 40% of that comes back to water. So transect zoning, it's kind of new. It's in the planning world. I typically make fun of planners. I like doers, but you got a plan to do. And it is interesting way of looking at things. You look at, and this is usually typically it's in a city, and here I imagine it being an interstate intersection. We all know they're going to widen 16 to 3 lanes halfway through our county. So you start higher density, and then it scales back. Go back to the next one. Why this thing don't work? So just fancy pictures. I'm bummed this, James did this for me. He likes pictures. So you go through, you know, it's just typical. And if you can imagine at an intersection, you've got convenience stores, multifamily, the higher density uses, and then you bounce out. So same here. The whole idea is to not sprawl, which is, it's my understanding that is the concern, where everything gets spread out. You can see how it's better planned. Same here. You can see how it goes back out. Rural zone will be like our Ag 5 that we have now. The nice part about the transect zoning, in my view, is you allow what typically would happen. So you're looking at that intersection. If you look anywhere, you would imagine you would have your retail, you'd have the multifamily, you'd have those. Those would be allowed in that transect zone. So it allows it to work organically without you, trying to go in and zone individual parcels and mess around with like that. In essence, it kind of replaces what you've done in the past with a planned unit development with a PUD. So it's along the same lines. So when we start looking, you can see the high density, that's the kind of lighter blue color. Then you have the green that goes back out, and then the lower densities. So the whole idea would be to look at that corridor, allow it to develop in a manner that makes sense, and to, in essence, confine it to that area. And it ties in with utilities on wastewater and water, and then you come up that corridor. So there you can see it, again, higher density to lower density. When we looked at doing this, again, this is us just looking, obviously your decision, but try to just make it look how it would make sense with the flow of the property, because we still have, it's kind of odd, looking around at some of the rezonings we've done where parcels are split and things like that doesn't really make a ton of sense. But again, you can see it there, and then it steps back down. The yellow is suburban, obviously less dense. And there you are up at 67. So trying to kind of thread the needle, keeping development as it comes in an area where it would make sense that you have the services to provide to it. I would say the other part, as far as developing these intersections, as you well know, we're very dependent on sales taxes now. I'd just say as local government in Georgia is gone, I think we're up to 9%. But between FLOSS, rolling back taxes for property taxes, SPLOST, T-SPLOST, E-SPLOST, sales taxes do make a big difference. I would say in the past, maybe in local government, we didn't pay as much attention to that. Now it really should drive a lot of the thinking that we have. You know, 'cause I feel guilty going to Costco down there in Bryan County getting my pennies. So, you know, it does make a difference to your bottom line. And when you see all the budget stuff and what we're spending, a lot of our rolling stock and everything comes out of SPLOST. So that's a lot. I tried to go through it. I hope it made a little bit of sense, but pepper me with questions.
So before we get started with questions, I just want to clarify a couple things. The intent of this work session today is not for us to take any kind of action. It's really just to put information out there. We will publish the actual septage report that we got from the engineers so that it's public and everybody can read it and y'all can look at it and ask questions as well. Really what we're trying to do is just introduce the concepts. And I think as we move forward, one of the big things that we're going to have to figure out is, one, what do we want to do about septage? We can do nothing and just keep doing what we're doing. However, there's going to come a point where that becomes very expensive and potentially damaging to our environment. Or we can be proactive about this and start to manage an issue that we have here now. We have the opportunity to do that. And I think the first step in this regardless is figuring out is actually buying capacity into the plant over in Bryan County. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with where that plant is, but if you go down I-16, it's actually on the opposite side of the road from where the Hyundai plant is, to the east of Daniel Defense there. It's not operational yet, but again, the key takeaway here is this was negotiated as part of the deal with us loaning the $8.1 million of ARPA funds to the Joint Development Authority. Part of that was for us to have the option to buy capacity in that plant. So, you know, the engineering study was based off the idea that we could buy that capacity, and we could do nothing but purely buy capacity and haul septage over there. But as Mr. Eldridge says, that becomes very expensive very quickly to do that. If we pre-treat that septage and remove all the solids and things from it, it's not as expensive to send it to them. And we could actually use that septage pre-treatment facility as more of a regional facility, as I understand it, from talking to some other elected officials here locally in the last couple months. There's a huge demand also in Effingham County for septage disposal. So we could truly make this into a regional asset that we could then leverage to help solve our own problems as well. But that's the intent here. It's not to say this is what we're going to do. It's merely just to put the idea out in the public and make sure that all the commissioners understand what's going on and look at all the options here as well too. So with that being said, we'll open the floor to questions here from the commissioners.
That estimation on the treatment plant,
Yes, sir.
that was just it. That does not have anything else than what the property is going to cost us.
No, you still got to buy a footprint. I mean, they had a footprint of 8 acres and change. I think you'd want more than that just to buffer from the public.
And you know, the reason for the question was I kind of knew the answer to that, but the reason for the question was, like the chairman said, to put it out in the public. It's just like anything else. Ain't nobody going to want by them. But this is going to be an issue for this county. It's going to. So I was kind of putting that out there. I kind of knew some of those questions, the answers to those questions, but I know where it's got to go down in that area because it has to make sense. So, you know, but there again, there's a battle we're going to have to face here, and citizens, they need to understand it's something that we really don't want to do, but it's something that's going to have to be done. So, you know, it's something that we really have to look very carefully at, even if it pertains being right beside you, you know, and I know nobody wants that. But it's the nature of the beast here.
Well, the reality here is we have the opportunity now. The engineers, I believe they said the minimum footprint was 8 foot for this plant. What they were recommending was between 20 and 25 acres. Is that correct?
Right, right, to give you some more. And it would be, I would say the treatment, it would not be typical wastewater, so it would be a
Like
little
it's spray
lower,
field
a
and all
little
that.
lower level of treatment, because you're still discharging to a wastewater plant. So it's kind of, I would say it's kind of glorified dilution.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's great. It won't be nothing like,
Nothing like
say,
here.
Portal or,
Right.
anything like that. It will not be.
Yes, sir. No
And it
spray
would be
field.
state of the art.
Yes, sir.
For that reason, but,
Are you still
you
doing
can
a
tell
deal
them
with
to use blue in the
NIMBY?
face, and that ain't
Yes.
gonna happen until it's there. I mean, until they actually see it for themselves, and I just want citizens to be aware of that,
Yes, sir.
It is what it is. We're treating stuff that comes out of your septic tank. That's what we do.
But again, we have the opportunity to go in and put this somewhere now before a bunch of growth and development starts to come around it, and then you're trying to stick it in the middle of something that's there. So, we could buy some acreage to where you would have a buffer there from the public as well. But, we have some decisions that we're gonna have to make on this soon.
Yeah.
Well, I would even, I'll say, but I want to, or you could site it within a future industrial site or something that they had, which would make the most sense, because industrial user ain't gonna care if it's next to them.
I don't really have a question, but I have to kind of explain it as being a installer for 30 years and own pump trucks and all that. To explain it to the taxpayers, there's no county around that wants to accept any waste except their own waste. They don't want to accept the adjacent county's waste because they tasked with the same thing we're going through now to try to handle our own waste. And at one time, and Jeff should remember this, I think, they was mandatory every 5 years you had to pump, and the only thing they could control was mobile home parks, because when one moved in, one moved out, but you couldn't tell about a residence or anything. Now, at this point in time, you're around $400 to pump a 1,000-gallon septic tank, and you can haul it to Portal or Metter. Now, and you're gonna have trouble. It's man-made and it's gonna fail. As good as you can possibly take care of it, time is its enemy, and it's gonna fail. And everybody worries about taxes. Well, if it comes to the point to where the waste that comes out of Bullitt County has to be either hauled, like grease, I think now has to go to South Carolina. If you pump a grease trap, that's for a restaurant. And it could very easily come to, if you have septic tank problems at your house and there's no facility in Bullitt County to take care of it, it's very easy for your septic tank to be pumped to cost more than your taxes for that whole year. Because now some of them's costing $1,200. Portal goes down a lot. Portal's got an old system. Metter, it's a cash cow for Metter. They got an old system. Like Mr. Eldridge said earlier, we're not having a whole lot of problems now because it's been so dry for so long. Now, eventually it's gonna go to raining, and then we're gonna have septic tank problems. And usually when that happens, Portal and Metter can't accept but so much. And then that moves us on out to Savannah. Well, when you haul from Bullitt County to Savannah, then you can go to $1,200. So the do-nothing situation's over with. I mean, you can do nothing if you want to, but I'm just telling you, we heard the number of septic tanks, it's, what'd you say, 55,000 that's in operation now, and I don't know how many houses is gonna be built. So we'll be 100,000 septic tanks strong here pretty, in the next 25 years or so. And I just wanted to point that out to the taxpayers that may look at it and say, we don't really need that. But I mean, if you got a septic tank at your house, you gonna need it. I can promise you that. And to just break it down where everybody understands it, when he's talking about a treatment plant, septic water and sewer water are two different things. Sewer water is when you flush your commode at your house or you wash your dishes. That's sewer water. Septic water, if you got a septic tank, your drain field bleeds the water off that you put in that septic tank, and it keeps the solids. And it's just concentrated. It's no different than any other concentrate. It just gets real concentrated. I don't know the pain of treatment plant, but you got about 4 or 5 different treatments. One is to take the solids and the paper all out of it. The next one is to put it in a pond and let UV rays and all break it down. And what they talking about, the 250,000 gallons a day volume that'll go to Bryan County. If you don't treat it, Mr. Eldridge said about 25 or 30 trucks to take care of that. And the county does that I think they would do that on a regular, just average week. They would average that. So if we had something that we could break it down, take the solids out of it, let it be put in a hold facility to treat it. Every time we treat it, it gives us more volume at Bryan County. Instead of eating up all of your volume with just septic tank trucks, then you'd be able to treat it, and then you would have room for your development at the corridors, and he mentioned the taxes, and you're missing about, probably $1 million a year of sales tax money on them corridors now.
Mr. Eldridge, I do have one question. You mentioned that we could potentially use pilot payment funds for this. What about the money that we would be getting from selling water to Bryan County? That money has to be used for infrastructure
Yeah,
projects, is that
that,
correct?
that too. I mean, that's what I say. I was afraid of getting too far ahead of myself, but that's what I would imagine. I mean, if you tell me go, it's going to take blending together several streams, and then we need to keep going after every grant, everything we can get, GFA, other things. But yes, I mean, that's the challenge, is starting out without a customer base. So we got to find a way to generate revenue to cover debt service. Because you can go a little while, but you hate capitalizing interest. So we need to look at every revenue stream possible. Yes, sir.
Have we thought?
Sorry,
go ahead.
and impact fees. There would be tap fees to tie in, so you'd have a one-time capital payment for any of these developments to tie in. So you'd have a cost per tap for any residential, a cost for any commercial or anything else. So you'd have that on both a water and wastewater side. Yes, sir.
I mean, I know we got to do something. Have we talked about maybe getting with City of Statesboro? Because I know they have to, from what I've been told, they're about to run out of capacity and they have to upsize. Is that something that we can possibly get in the works with them to try to keep it local, so we're not so, I guess, determined on it have to be on the south end of the county, and possibly use it so it's not such a long drive for the people in Portal and, up on the north end to bring it down to the south end and try to keep it more central? Also, the city of Brooklet is, they're getting hot and heavy in the sewer right now, and they're pumping all their stuff to city of Statesboro. Possibly if they might be interested in teaming up and building a plant together right there in Brooklet, because I know they were floating the idea of building a plant also. So I'd hate to send everything outside the county whenever we could possibly do it right here in the county if we just work together with some of the local cities.
So the hesitation I would have was they kicked us out, 7 years ago from City of Statesboro. It's been 7 years. They won't accept septic waste. I don't know the operations of that plant, but I do know at our meeting with the delegation, the Beacon Group, they asked for $100 million for a new package plant. City of Statesboro did. So I'd be a little hesitant. I don't want to be typical. I want to control my own, but there is some advantage to that. And so I just don't know. Brooklet, from my understanding, is not doing any treatment. They're just doing a pump station and a force main back to Statesboro. So I just don't know. I don't really know what Statesboro has. I would feel more comfortable if you're making a large investment, because I would imagine they're going to expect a large investment, it going in a new plant. So that's my feelings on it. I get what you're saying. And I did have, after that meeting, they're like, oh, maybe we can work something out. And, in my mind was, why wasn't an offer made 7 years ago? Why have we been going through this to this point? So I do always want to get along, but I don't know, I'm just a little hesitant.
I think it merits a conversation with the city. However, the concern there is, I've been hearing for the last 6 months that this sewage plant in Bryan County was going to come online any day now. And again, the clock starts to tick the day that plant opens up. We have 6 months to make up our mind what we're going to do there. Once that 6-month window closes, we could still buy capacity in that plant, but it will be at a higher rate than what we're doing now. So again, we're looking at, when we talked with the consultants in the septic working group, we told them that we wanted to focus on using, that opportunity. And because there were so many variables involved with working with the city, we just didn't know what they are. And I think that we should do our due diligence there and at least ask the question of them. However, the real question is, what's the timeline on us being able to tie in with them? The other point that I do want to make, though, is that the intent of doing this is not to force anybody that has a septic tank right now to force them into sewage with the county. So.
And to clarify the deal with the city, and if you know where the wastewater treatment plant's at, and that's what a septic tank does to a system that has not been treated. You hadn't smelt that system in a long time because the pH balance on it's right. And don't hold me to the numbers, but I believe the numbers were 200 or 300 houses is what a septic tank truck, when it backs up there and dumps because of the concentration on it. It's like 200 or 300 houses flushing a commode all at one time with just that one truck dumping. And then that throws the pH off in the system, and that's when you start smelling the wastewater plant out there around the hospital and all. And I don't know, like I said, I'm like Mr. Eldridge, I don't run the wastewater plant, but they only got a certain amount of room that they can do too. I mean, they've actually, the city has grown up and just encompassed them just about. And so I think room, like you was talking about the acres, I think that's what's caught them. I mean, they doing as much as they can do. And so that's the reason. And like Grove Lakes, the city of Statesboro has got septic tanks and we pump them and we don't even get to dump the city of Statesboro's waste in the city of Statesboro. So, but whatever, and the pumpers and all, I mean, like he said, it'll pay. I mean, they ain't gonna get the dump for free. They'll pay, and they'll pay whatever they charge, but just as long as they guaranteed somewhere to put to dump.
Any other questions or comments? So under the staff comments, I neglected to mention this, but our intent by doing this is to start to discuss these issues now in an open session so that people can hear what we're thinking and what we're looking at doing, and so that you can start to provide feedback to your representatives at the county level as far as what you think we should do with these things as well too. So it's really to open a discussion. Along those same lines, next month, our morning meeting is going to be on the 17th of February. We're going to have a work session on here, and I haven't told anybody about this. I think I mentioned it in passing to Mr. Eldridge, but we're going to discuss data centers. And I'm sure that we'll fill the room up just because I said the word data center. And again, the intent here is not to take action. It's to provide information, make sure that everybody's hearing the same thing, and so that we can start looking at solutions proactively instead of reacting to these things when they happen or after they happen. So, and I'll just tell you now, I don't know of any data centers that are trying to come to Bullock County. But this is something that's happening across the state. There's been a lot of things that's going on as far as they are looking for places to put these things. And I would rather us start to have this conversation now instead of waiting until they're knocking on our door, wanting to buy land here to put a data center on it.
Yeah, and to make sure that we have the planning and zoning in place to where we do have the controls, because I think they're so lucrative now. They're just looking for a rural county that does not have the land use planning to stop them. They've got so much money they can run the infrastructure wherever they're dropping it down. So, and they are huge water users, which was eye-opening at that webinar we listened to. Yeah, and I just want to go back and just stress the fact too, if go down the path on wastewater, water, planning really needs to go hand in hand with that. So you've got control over that as the governing body that controls zoning. I think that's crucial.
Well, if there's no other questions or comments with this, I think this will conclude our work session for the day. We have one other item on the agenda. It's executive session. There will be no action taken after this meeting, or after the executive session. We will come back in and just adjourn. But I'll just go ahead and read this right now. And then I'm going to call for a motion after I read this that we take about a 10-minute recess. And then we'll come back into executive session. I must now call for a motion to adjourn into executive session in accordance with the provisions of OCGA 50-14-3, B1B, and OCGA 50-14-3, B2, and other applicable laws pursuant to the advice of County Attorney Jeff Akins for the purpose of discussing real estate and personnel. And again, there will be no further action taken after this executive session. And at this time, I'm going to call for a motion for us to go into executive session after we take a 10-minute recess.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank y'all for coming out today.